My HOA president had everyone fooled, even me, until he tried to drag my daughter into his house, and the man we destroyed tried to save her. That's when I uncovered the years of his dark secrets. When the new guy moved into 2C, my neighbor Margaret grabbed my arm at the mailbox, her eyes wild, saying he was on the registry for indecent exposure with a minor present. Within hours, our HOA president Henry called an emergency meeting declaring we couldn't tolerate threats to our children. He volunteered to personally escort our kids home from bus stops since he worked from home and could keep an eye on things. The Facebook group exploded with Marcus's registry screenshot, and my daughter Lisa asked if we should be worried, seeing pedo already spray painted across his garage. I watched him scrub it off at 5 a.m. before any kids woke up. My husband wanted to sign the petition, but something felt wrong about destroying a man we'd never met. Lisa mentioned Henry's new safety sessions and how all the parents loved him for stepping up. For 3 months, I watched Marcus's systematic destruction. Groceries left on wet concrete, trash scattered across his lawn, garden plants dying from bleach, parents yanking children away when he walked his ancient dog. Yet he shoveled people's driveways at 4 a.m., left anonymous grocery cards for struggling families, and built a little free library at his property's edge, never once approaching it when children were near. Meanwhile, Henry expanded his influence, becoming a teen coordinator, hosting leadership lunches. He offered to be Lisa's special mentor because she was so mature, not like other teens who didn't understand real life. I said no after my friend's daughter suddenly quit his program and wouldn't say why. At a barbecue, Henry told Lisa she could tell him things she couldn't tell her parents, and I felt my skin crawl. The crisis hit when Lisa texted from the community center, saying Henry insisted on driving her home. I was trapped in traffic 25 minutes away and thought it would be safer if he drove her home. I was wrong. Once Henry got home with Lisa, he started inviting her inside, saying he had some snacks for them. When Lisa refused, he got angry and grabbed her arm, trying to drag her inside. Marcus saw everything from his window and walked onto his porch with his dog. Marcus asked if Lisa was inside, and Henry exploded screaming about calling police on the predator watching teenagers. By the time I got there, he switched to hero mode, saying he was protecting our sweet Lisa from danger. By the time Lisa told me the truth, it was too late. Henry's Facebook post about Marcus stalking teens was sent to everyone. There was an emergency meeting where Henry announced his expanded protection program, and that they just had to sign his petition to get him kicked out of the neighborhood. Parents praised him while telling me Lisa didn't understand grooming tactics, that Henry was keeping her safe. Henry cornered me privately, suggesting some parents were too trusting, and we needed to be careful about who our children communicated with given the predator situation. He implied that I could just as easily join Marcus on the list if I wasn't careful. Soon after came vengeance, only not for the right person. Windows smashed, feces on his door, tires slashed, and someone threw a bucket of chocolate over his fence. His dog ate it all and got poisoned. She died in his arms at the emergency vet. His employer fired him after concerned citizens called. Henry threw a victory potluck celebrating protecting our children, announcing Marcus's termination as proof the system worked, expanding his mentorship program because recent events proved teens needed trusted adults. No one even batted an eye when I asked how Henry even knew that Marcus was fired. I saw Marcus carrying Daisy's collar to his car and knew I had to act. I found him in his garage packing boxes, eyes swollen from crying. He sounded so broken when he said, Daisy was 13 years old and all I had left. Marcus's shoulders sagged as he finally spoke. I was 19 and hammered, stumbling out of a college party when I peed behind a dumpster in an alley. A teenage couple making out nearby called the cops on me. The prosecutor was up for re-election campaigning on cleaning up the streets. Public urination with a minor present became a SX offense that destroyed my life. He rubbed his face as he explained that in every neighborhood there's always someone like Henry. He moved to his window pointing at Henry's house. Those comments about your daughter being mature and special, the private mentoring sessions, the way he engineers situations to be alone with certain girls. Your Lisa was smart enough to avoid it, but that friend of hers who suddenly stopped coming to his lunches. His voice dropped. The family that moved last month without warning. I heard them fighting one night through their open window. Something about inappropriate texts, and Henry insisting she'd misunderstood his mentoring. His eyes met mine with desperate intensity. When you do something with this, and I know you will, you can't mention me. No one will believe it coming from the registered SX offender. I left his garage carrying knowledge that our HOA president had tried to groom my daughter, and had done the same thing for years. All the while my neighbors raised glasses at their victory party celebrating the removal of the wrong threat. I stood frozen in his driveway watching Marcus's taillights disappear into the darkness, the weight of what I'd learned pressed against my chest. Henry was still hosting his victory party 3 houses down, laughter drifting through the night air. My phone buzzed, Lisa asking where I was. I typed back that I'd be home soon, then walked slowly toward my house. Henry stood on his lawn watering his flowers despite the late hour. He waved cheerfully and started whistling. The melody made my stomach turn. It was Lisa's favorite song from the leadership meetings. The next morning, I drove to the grocery store trying to process everything. My cart rolled through the aisles while my mind replayed Marcus's warnings. At checkout, someone stepped behind me. Henry. He placed chocolate bars on the conveyor belt, the same brand that killed Daisy. He smiled warmly and mentioned Lisa had left her water bottle at the community center. The cashier beamed at him. Everyone loved helpful Henry. My hands shook as I swiped my card. I couldn't stay quiet. Right there between the candy display and tabloid magazines, I confronted him about Lisa's water bottle. My voice came out sharper than intended. The clerk's expression shifted. She looked between us, then focused on me with concern. Here I was, harassing the neighborhood hero who volunteered his time for our children. She reached for the phone, ready to call security. Henry touched her arm gently, explaining I'd been under stress lately with the Marcus situation. So understanding, so reasonable. The clerk relaxed but kept watching me suspiciously as I grabbed my bags and fled. 3 days later, my sister called in tears. Emergency root canal. No one to watch her kids. Her regular sitter had canceled. I started listing options when she mentioned Henry's wife had offered. Henry could even pick them up after if needed. My sister didn't understand my sudden silence. The appointment was in 2 hours. I had to choose between leaving my sister in agony or potentially exposing her children to Henry. My phone lit up with his text offering to help with pickup, complete with a smiley face emoji. I called Mrs. Chen instead. The elderly neighbor was delighted to help, though she moved slowly these days. My sister agreed reluctantly. I thought I'd solve the problem until I arrived to collect the kids. Henry's car sat in Mrs. Chen's driveway. Through the window, I saw him handing out cookies while Mrs. Chen smiled gratefully at his thoughtfulness in checking on them. The school called the following week. Lisa's teachers had noticed changes. Withdrawn behavior, falling grades. They scheduled a meeting. On the same day, my car died in the parking lot. Transmission finally gave out after months of warning signs. Then the HOA violation notice arrived. Something about vandalism investigation related to Marcus's property. Only the last one involved Henry directly, but the timing felt orchestrated. The contractor who could fix the HOA violation turned out to be Henry's golf buddy. He mentioned it casually while measuring my fence, how Henry had asked about our family just last week. Such a caring neighbor, always checking on people. I was picking up Lisa's anxiety medication when it happened. Henry stood near the pharmacy counter, his face pale and hands trembling. A teenage girl walked past, and he stepped backward, knocking over a display. The pharmacist rushed to help, speaking softly about his PTSD from protecting the neighborhood. Henry nodded, accepting accepting her comfort while stealing glances at the girl who'd already left. That evening, Lisa defended him to her friend Maya. I overheard her explaining that Henry was just trying to help, that I'd been paranoid since the Marcus thing. The words stung because she wasn't entirely wrong. I was paranoid, but sometimes paranoia is justified. I found myself driving past Marcus's empty house. His garbage bin still sat by the curb, forgotten in his hasty departure. Something glinted inside. Daisy's collar. A note was attached. Check the teen center lost and found. The garbage truck rumbled closer, maybe 10 minutes away. Retrieving the collar meant reaching into the bin, technically trespassing on abandoned property. I glanced around, then leaned over. A camera flash made me jump. Margaret stood across the street with her phone raised. Within minutes, her Facebook post appeared. Is she stealing from the empty house? The photo showed me clearly, arm deep in the garbage bin. Maya needed a recommendation letter for a summer program the next week. Her mother called apologetically. Henry had connections through the leadership council. He was the only one who could help. I wanted to warn her, but what could I say that wouldn't sound insane? My mother visited that weekend. She sat at my kitchen table, choosing her words carefully. She reminded me how I'd acted after Dad died. The paranoia, the accusations against the funeral director I'd been convinced was stealing from grieving families. Her point was clear. I was doing it again. The HOA Facebook group had screenshotted my posts about Henry. Questions I'd raised during meetings were reframed as harassment of a volunteer. 3 neighbors reported my drive-bys past Henry's house. I took that route to avoid him, but they didn't know that. Henry controlled the community center schedule. Lisa's dance class time changed without notice. When I complained, he looked confused and pulled out his phone. He'd texted Lisa directly about the change. She'd responded positively. I asked when. During the leadership meeting, when her phone was in his office for their no devices policy. Exhaustion made me careless. I ran a red light with the kids in the car. Thankfully, no accident. The officer who pulled me over noted I appeared disoriented. Just a warning this time. Caroline met me for coffee. My best friend since college believed something felt off about Henry, but her husband Tom had made his position clear. If she got involved with my crusade, he'd take their kids to his mother's. I watched her wrestle with loyalty versus family stability. I realized neighbors crossed the street when they saw me coming. At the coffee shop, I overheard someone refer to me as the crazy one from Maple Street. My reputation was crumbling. Henry's latest claim hit harder. He told people Lisa had asked him for driving lessons. He produced a text from her number as proof. The timestamp showed during a leadership meeting when I knew her phone was in his office. But proving that meant admitting I'd let her walk home alone once, breaking my promise to my husband about safety protocols. I found myself celebrating small victories alone. A piece of evidence here, a confirmed timeline there. I opened wine to toast my progress. Someone snapped a photo through my window and posted it on Instagram. Getting hammered while kids are home? The angle showed the wine but not the untouched glass. Henry suggested mediation. He approached me after school pickup, speaking loud enough for other parents to hear. For Lisa's sake, he said, we should find a way to coexist peacefully. His reasonable tone made my refusal sound petty and vindictive. The foundation was crumbling beneath me, but I knew the truth. Marcus had seen it, documented it, and paid the price for being the wrong messenger. Now I had to find a way to expose Henry without destroying my family in the process. The foundation crumbled faster than I anticipated. Henry started dating my divorced friend Janet 2 weeks after suggesting mediation. She gushed about his thoughtfulness at book club while I sat frozen. He'd mentioned loving Norwegian wood during their first date, Lisa's favorite book, the one she discussed with him during leadership meetings. Lisa came home confused the following afternoon. She reported our earlier conversation about homework helped differently than I remembered. According to her, Henry had simply asked if she needed assistance, but I'd heard him offer private tutoring sessions at his house. The discrepancy made me question my own memory. The school board meeting arrived with perfect timing. Someone had compiled my old emails to the HOA, the ones where I'd praised Henry's initial safety initiatives. They projected them on screen while discussing community involvement. My own words from months ago now painted me as a hypocrite, attacking the very programs I'd once supported. My 6-year-old neighbor knocked on my door that evening. His mother stood behind him, arms crossed. He told her I said Mr. Henry was dangerous, but Henry gave the best piggyback rides at the community picnic. How could someone bad give such good piggyback rides? His innocent question hung between us while his mother's glare burned through me. I discovered the Ring doorbell footage by accident. While searching for evidence of Henry's recent behavior, I found video from 2 months earlier. Lisa entering Henry's house voluntarily, smiling. She'd stayed for 40 minutes during what she told me was a canceled leadership prep session. The timestamp proved she'd lied about where she'd been. The school counselor called me in for a meeting, not about Lisa's declining grades, but about my concerning behavior. Parents had reported my questions about Henry as harassment. She suggested parenting support classes, her tone making it clear this wasn't really a suggestion. My unfounded allegations were affecting Lisa's well-being. Desperation drove me to try Marcus's old Wi-Fi that night. I sat in my car outside his empty house trying common passwords. Daisy 2010 worked. His dog's name and the year he'd gotten her. The connection was weak but active. He'd left something behind. The community newsletter arrived with Henry's smiling face on the cover. The editor had dedicated 2 pages to his teen mentorship success stories. Photos of grateful families filled the spread, including one of Lisa at a leadership event, standing closer to Henry than I'd realized. My therapist shifted uncomfortably when I mentioned checking Henry's garbage for evidence. She reminded me about mandatory reporting requirements. My obsessive fixation on a neighbor could be seen as concerning behavior. I left her office knowing she'd have to document our conversation. I attempted to record Henry at school pickup. My phone barely concealed in my pocket. I approached him near the flagpole. He spotted it immediately. His voice carried across the parking lot as he asked about my mental health treatment, expressing concern for my well-being. Every parent in earshot turned to stare. Dance recital tickets required parent signatures this year, a new policy after some incident last season. Henry volunteered to handle the complicated pickup system since some parents had restraining orders that made school visits difficult. His helpful offer made my skin crawl. The janitor who'd seen Lisa upset after a leadership meeting chose his job over truth. An anonymous complaint had been filed about his work performance the day after I'd spoken with him. He avoided my eyes in the hallway, pushing his cart faster when he saw me coming. I noticed Henry had claimed Marcus's old parking spot at the community center. Worse, he'd planted lavender where Daisy used to relieve herself during walks. Beautiful purple flowers growing from poisoned ground. Lavender was toxic to dogs, a detail that felt intentional. Henry's next move cut deeper. He offered supervised visitation with Lisa, suggesting I needed help for my delusions about him. His proposal came wrapped in concern for her stability. The other parents nodded along, agreeing that compromise was best for the children. My refusal spread through Facebook within hours. Screenshots of my text declining his generous offer appeared with commentary about mothers who wouldn't compromise for their daughter's well-being. The narrative wrote itself. I was the unstable parent putting pride before my child's needs. I discovered the timestamp error on the HOA surveillance footage while reviewing old files. The system had been wrong for months. Marcus couldn't have been where Henry claimed during one crucial incident. He'd been at the pharmacy. The receipt I found in his old trash proved it. I blamed the wrong person for lying. The realization hit me in the garage. Marcus had been photographing Henry's interactions with teens from his window, not stalking them, but documenting patterns. His old tablet, still connected to the cloud, contained months of evidence. Photos showing Henry creating opportunities to be alone with specific girls. My mother arrived unannounced that afternoon. afternoon. She stood in my kitchen, tears streaming down her face. She had to choose between believing her daughter or maintaining peace with her son-in-law. The choice meant potentially losing access to Lisa. She chose neutrality, limiting my options during the investigation. I created a fake profile to infiltrate Henry's mentorship alumni private group. The application process required references from current members. I spent hours crafting a believable persona, a grateful parent whose daughter had flourished under his guidance. An accidental encounter at the mall provided unexpected information. Henry's previous neighbor was shopping for luggage. I struck up casual conversation about travel while mentally cataloging every detail about the family that had moved so suddenly. She mentioned keeping ring footage from their old house, sharing the login before realizing what she'd done. Lisa's father brought his boss to dinner without warning. The man spent the evening praising our community's safety initiatives, specifically mentioning that nice HOA president who'd made the neighborhood so much better. My husband's career advancement suddenly depended on not making waves. A crucial HOA vote coincided with a mandatory school meeting about Lisa's performance. I couldn't be in both places. My absence from the safety vote was marked in the minutes. Henry's proposal for expanded youth access passed unanimously among those present. Legal consultation drained our savings account. The lawyer explained how Henry could use HOA funds for community protection initiatives, including his own legal representation. Meanwhile, I paid hourly rates that accumulated faster than I could track. The confrontation at Lisa's favorite restaurant traumatized the teenage staff. They'd known our family for years, celebrated her birthdays with free dessert. Now they witnessed me cornering Henry near the bathroom, demanding answers about text messages. Their discomfort was palpable as they asked us both to leave. My promotion evaporated after the review board meeting. Inability to maintain professional boundaries, they said. Henry's board connection had mentioned concerns about my stability. The lost income meant choosing between Lisa's therapy and continuing my investigation. The pipes burst in our master bedroom during Henry's safety patrol shift. Water damage forced me to sleep in Lisa's room while repairs were scheduled. The timing felt deliberate, though I couldn't prove anything beyond coincidence. My mother's final plea came at Lisa's school concert. She grabbed my hands during intermission, begging me to stop this crusade. I was destroying our family, she said. The words echoed through the auditorium as other parents pretended not to notice our confrontation. Maya's mother lost her job after accessing Henry's background check through her position at the county office. I'd asked for one small favor. Now Maya's parents fought constantly, her father blaming her mother for getting involved with the unstable neighbor. Their marriage strained under the weight of my investigation. I continued gathering evidence despite the collateral damage. Each piece of proof came with another family's stability sacrificed. Maya stopped speaking to Lisa. Their friendship became another casualty of my pursuit of truth. Caroline met me at Starbucks with a simple question that shattered my certainty. What if I was wrong? What if Marcus had lied? The pause before I could answer stretched too long. Doubt crept in through the cracks in my conviction. I made the decision to publicly acknowledge my past mental health struggles. The school meeting required honesty about my history. Yes, I'd had a breakdown after my father's death. Yes, I'd made unfounded accusations before, but this was different. The admission cost me credibility while buying time. The ring footage revealed more than Henry's crimes. It also showed my failures. Moments when Lisa displayed discomfort I'd missed. Signals I should have seen. The evidence condemned us both in different ways. Henry's lawyer filed an emergency motion citing my escalating instability as endangering a minor child. The court date loomed in 2 weeks. Official documents painted me as an obsessed neighbor manufacturing drama about a community volunteer. His deposition contained unexpected depth. Henry revealed his teenage neighbor's sewer slide years ago. The boy had shown signs of depression Henry failed to recognize. His mentorship program started as penance, a desperate need to save other teens from the fate he'd ignored. The revelation complicated everything. Genuine grief mixed with boundary violations. His need to help twisted into something harmful. I had to use his trauma against him, weaponizing personal tragedy for strategic advantage. My old empathetic self died in that moment. I learned to see weakness as opportunity, pain as leverage. The transformation felt necessary but left me hollow. Protecting Lisa required becoming someone I didn't recognize. Evidence surfaced in unexpected places. Lisa's old phone, relegated to a drawer during spring cleaning, contained deleted texts. Henry's messages recovered through basic software. Proof of grooming patterns disguised as mentorship. The minor victory felt hollow when the judge ordered supervision. Henry's tears at his neighbor's memorial were genuine. We both brought flowers to the grave, two damaged people claiming to protect children while destroying everything around us. His counterclaim gained traction. He painted a picture of unwanted advances, suggesting I targeted him after rejection. The narrative was believable enough to those who wanted to believe it. My reputation made his lies sound like truth. Everything hinged on the family that moved away. Would they testify via video link? Their daughter held the key to everything, but her parents wanted her to stay silent. The pressure to protect their fresh start warred against the need for justice. I'd once driven Henry's elderly mother to chemotherapy when she couldn't find another ride. She remembered that kindness when she asked why I was hurting her boy. The question came without malice, just confusion from a woman who couldn't reconcile the helper with the accused. The school counselor faced an impossible choice. Supporting me meant risking her job after board pressure. Her mortgage, her children's college funds, all balanced against doing what was right. I watched her struggle with the decision. The legal system's requirements became clear during consultation. Circumstantial evidence wasn't enough. We needed physical proof or direct witness testimony. The burden felt insurmountable given Henry's careful behavior. I contacted a school board member who'd quietly questioned Henry's program expansion. She admitted having concerns but wouldn't testify publicly without protection. The meeting minutes she provided revealed patterns of anonymous parent requests that Henry likely wrote himself. The discovery reframed our entire community dynamic. Henry had methodically isolated voices of dissent, creating an echo chamber of support. Those who questioned were pushed out or silenced. The system protected itself. Final evidence came from the teen center's old security system. Outdated cameras Henry didn't know existed captured patterns of behavior. Him creating situations to be alone with specific girls, always maintaining plausible deniability. I realized exposing Henry meant destroying our community's self-image. We'd all enabled this through willful blindness. The comfortable narrative of the helpful neighbor protected us from uncomfortable truths about those we trusted. The commitment to truth came with full knowledge of the cost. My reputation, friendships, family stability, all would be sacrificed. But protecting children required seeing what we didn't want to see. Henry's deposition revealed a crucial lie about the timeline with the family that moved. Video evidence contradicted his version of events. The discrepancy was small but provable. Finally, something concrete. I presented evidence to authorities without satisfaction. Watching Henry realize the pattern was documented brought no joy, just exhaustion and the weight of everything lost in pursuit of justice. Other families began connecting dots about their own daughter's behavior changes. The community's willful ignorance cracked as parents remembered dismissed concerns. Each revelation brought another family into the growing circle of doubt. Both sides prepared for the final hearing. A criminal investigation had opened based on the evidence provided. The wheels of justice turned slowly but inevitably toward truth. The courtroom felt smaller than I'd imagined. Wooden benches divided our community like battle lines. Henry's supporters on the left, those questioning him scattered on the right. Lisa sat exactly in the middle, her posture rigid between two worlds. My hands trembled around the coffee cup I'd been clutching since dawn. on. The stain on my blouse from this morning's spill matched Henry's disheveled appearance across the aisle. His usual polish had cracked, revealing exhaustion that mirrored my own. The prosecutor laid out Marcus's documentation methodically, each photograph time-stamped, each pattern mapped. The old tablet's data recovery showed months of careful observation from his window. Henry creating reasons to be alone with specific girls, always maintaining plausible deniability. The moved family's daughter appeared on the video screen. Her parents flanked her, their reluctance visible even through pixels. She spoke carefully, describing Henry's texts that started supportive but shifted into discomfort. Her mother's jaw tightened with each detail her daughter revealed. Judge Morrison ordered immediate restrictions on Henry's youth access pending full investigation. The gavel's impact reverberated through the room. Henry's mother gasped from the gallery while my own mother stared at her folded hands. The digital forensics expert authenticated the security footage next. Frame-by-frame analysis of the teen center's old cameras showed Henry's calculated movements, creating situations, engineering privacy, always stopping just short of prosecutable actions. Evidence mounted but also revealed Henry's genuine belief in his mission. His breakdown during testimony exposed the warped logic. He truly saw himself as protector after failing his neighbor who died. The grief was real even if his methods had twisted into harm. The prosecutor offered me input on charging recommendations, maximum penalties or mandated therapy with permanent youth program bans. I thought of cycles repeating, of punishment versus prevention. My choice would shape not just Henry's future, but our community's healing. I chose comprehensive therapy over maximum prosecution. Breaking cycles mattered more than revenge. The decision felt hollow but necessary, accepting that justice sometimes meant choosing difficult mercy over satisfying retribution. Lisa's choice came next. The custody evaluator recommended she remain with both parents despite the turmoil. She nodded, accepting the complicated reality of loving people who'd failed in different ways. Her maturity in that moment broke something inside me. The restraining order covered all neighborhood youth indefinitely. Henry would undergo intensive therapy, sell his house, start over somewhere with proper supervision. Not the dramatic downfall some wanted, but realistic consequences for someone whose good intentions had warped into harm. Our HOA dissolved within weeks. The infrastructure that enabled Henry's access crumbled as board members resigned in shame. Some had seen signs, others remained willfully blind. The dissolution felt like necessary destruction. Caroline's marriage survived, though scarred. She'd chosen our friendship despite Tom's ultimatum, and they'd found their way through counseling. Other relationships weren't so fortunate. Janet couldn't look at me. Maya's parents divorced. The community center director transferred away. The school board implemented new oversight protocols based on Marcus's documentation methods. Background checks, mandatory observers, transparent communication systems, practical changes born from one man's careful watching and a community's painful reckoning. I returned to Marcus's empty house one final time. The for sale sign swayed in autumn wind. Inside his mailbox, I left an envelope with Daisy's collar and a note explaining how his evidence had protected future children. No return address, no signature needed. My job situation stabilized slowly. The promotion was gone, but I'd kept my position. Coworkers who'd avoided me began nodding again in hallways. Professional rehabilitation through quiet competence rather than dramatic vindication. Lisa's therapy sessions became our Thursday routine. We sat in the waiting room working through homework while she processed inside. Progress measured in small moments. Her laugh returning, grades stabilizing, trust rebuilding grain by grain. The wine photo disappeared from Instagram. Margaret actually apologized, admitting she'd misjudged. Not friends, never that, but civil neighbors who could share recycling bin duties without hostility. Henry's house sold to a young couple with no children. They painted over his careful landscaping, removed the lavender that had poisoned Daisy's memory. Fresh starts layered over old wounds. Some families moved away, unable to reconcile their blind trust with Henry's betrayal. Others stayed, working through collective guilt. We'd all enabled through comfort, choosing easy belief over difficult questions. The teen center reopened with new policies. Parents required to stay during programs, glass walls installed, multiple adults always present. Architectural honesty replacing the dangerous privacy of trust. My mother and I found new balance. She'd chosen neutrality but came to understand why I couldn't. We shared coffee on Sundays, avoiding certain topics while rebuilding around the edges of hard choices. Lisa graduated from middle school without Henry's leadership program. She found other mentors, teachers, coaches, and a youth pastor who understood appropriate boundaries. Growth through diversity rather than singular influence. The investigation concluded with sealed records. Henry accepted plea terms including lifetime registration and mandatory treatment. Not the public trial some wanted, but resolution that prioritized healing over spectacle. I drove past the community center one evening. New families used the space, unaware of its history. Children played while parents watched. A casual vigilance that hadn't existed before. Protection through presence rather than proxy. My marriage evolved through counseling. We'd both failed Lisa differently. Him through absence, me through obsession. Learning to parent together meant accepting imperfection while committing to presence. The Facebook group reformed with new moderators. Posts about lost pets and bulk trash days replaced the weaponized neighborhood watch. Digital spaces returning to mundane purpose. Winter came with normalized routines. School pickup without scanning for Henry. HOA meetings about snow removal instead of safety patrols. Ordinary concerns filling space trauma had occupied. An anonymous card arrived near Christmas. Marcus's handwriting thanked me for believing his documentation. He'd started over 3 states away. Daisy's memory honored through volunteer work with animal shelters. Distance allowing dignity. Lisa asked about trust while decorating cookies. How to know who to believe, when to question authority. I gave her tools instead of answers. Verification methods, boundary recognition, the courage to speak uncomfortable truths. The community center's new director implemented youth advocacy training, teaching children to identify concerning behavior, establishing reporting channels that bypassed single authorities. Systematic protection replacing personality-dependent safety. Some neighbors still blamed me for destroying Henry's life. Others thanked me for seeing what they'd missed. Most fell between, wrestling with complicity and relief. Community rebuilt through acknowledgement rather than consensus. Spring arrived with tentative healing. Lisa joined track team, finding strength in running. I returned to book club where Janet's absence left a permanent empty chair. We read different genres now, avoiding certain themes. The legal bills took years to resolve. Payment plans and borrowed funds, financial scars marking the cost of truth. Worth it when Lisa felt safe, when other children were protected, when cycles broke before claiming new victims. Marcus's little library still stood at property's edge. New owners maintained it unknowingly. Books cycling through without knowledge of its creator's story. Anonymous good persisting past presence. 1 year later, normalcy felt both foreign and earned. Lisa trusted again though, carefully. Henry underwent treatment somewhere distant. Our neighborhood functioned with learned wariness. I'd changed from the woman who'd first questioned the mob, transformed by the weight of being right about the wrong things. Protection sometimes required becoming someone harder than intended. The community had learned that comfortable beliefs could harbor uncomfortable truths. We lived with that knowledge. Imperfect, but wiser.